Okay, I think we are live. Should be. Okay, I think I got it everywhere. All right.
All right, sounds good. Ready whenever you are.
Yep. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, that was a nice little fade there. What's going on, everybody? We are back. It is episode 8.5. You might be confused on that, but that's okay because we skipped last week because of unforeseen circumstances, which is cool. I am Walters here, and I just wanted to thank everybody for coming on in here and joining us here today on our live stream. I want to say hi to my buddy Jack. Jack, what's going on, man? Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back finally. Excited to get back to some fantasy football life.
Just one little housekeeping thing here quick before we get into our quick announcements. I just wanted to have you take your webcam and turn it to your left shoulder. Yeah, I like it. That looks great. Perfect. Did you get a new haircut?
No, I got them all cut.
Oh, perfect. Cool. I love it. Okay, we are the Victorious POD, everybody. We talk about fantasy football here. We are a fantasy football podcast and live stream. I am Walters, like I stated before, and I am here with my good friend Jack. I would like to start off by thanking all of our donors. To everybody who has donated, we thank you and we appreciate you. If you would like to donate, you can go to www.streamlabs.com/thevictoriouspod. I would also like to give a special thank you to Levi Oki. He is responsible for all this beautiful artwork that you see here on the live stream and on all of our pages on the internet. Speaking of pages on the internet, you can find us here on YouTube. We podcast every Thursday right around this time. So please join in and join us in the chat, and we'll have lots of fun. You can also find us on Discord. The link to this Discord is in the description below. We'll get more into that a little bit later into the show. You can also find our podcast home at anchor.fm. That would be www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod. There you can leave us a voicemail, and you can find all of our episodes on that place as well. You mute my television because I don't want feedback. Perfect. All right. Let's see here. Socials. You can find us at Instagram, at the Victorious Pod, and on Twitter. Our handle there is at Victorious Pod. Jack, we had such an exciting weekend of football this weekend. I feel like we are really getting. I think we're getting spoiled with all the high flying action of the NFL this year. Would you seem to agree with that?
Yeah, that and there's just been a lot of really close games too. I saw when I was watching over the weekend. I think there was some stat. I think through the noon games, so through like the Vikings and Packers games, which were both walk-off wins. That at that point in the season, the first 5 weeks or whatever it had been, it's the most like walk-off or last-second wins of any NFL season ever to start. It was like 14 games that had all been decided by like a field goal or a last-second score through the first 15 weeks. So pretty crazy. There's not a lot of blowouts happening. It's a lot of like nail biters and surprisingly contested games. So love to see that.
Do you have like a favorite game from over the weekend?
I mean, any game is good when the Vikings get a win, but it was really, really ugly. So I'd probably pass on that one. I personally loved the Buccaneers. They went off and destroyed the Dolphins on the back of Brady throwing 5 touchdowns and over 400 yards. So 44-year-old man just showing he's still got it. That was really fun for me to watch.
Yeah. I don't even know which one I would pick, to be honest with you. We had a lot.
Did you watch any of them?
I did actually. I had
Oh,
actually.
okay.
It was an
That was the first
awesome.
question.
It was an awesome weekend. So one of the guys that we do that we did a draft for.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Face Esquire. And
of course.
Yes. He was there. And so he had a live stream early Sunday morning, and it was fantasy football related. So I was listening to that. And then we hopped into his Discord server, and then a bunch of us were just chilling in chat while we were watching. I was watching the Vikings game, and I was watching Red Zone while talking smack with all my buddies over there on the Political Hacks Discord. So that was a lot of fun. Almost as much fun as like having people over in person and doing that. So, but no, it was great to see the Vikings game. I told the people I was hanging out with that once the Lions went up by a point on the 2-point conversion, that I was on suicide watch because I did not want to lose to the winless Lions. So that was quite. I think my heart skipped a few beats, but hey, we got a walk-off field goal. So I mean, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm happy to see the Vikings actually make a field goal to win a game for a change. So that's exciting. You'd hope you would be able to handle the Lions a little bit easier than we did, but it was a solid like 37-second drive or whatever. 3 quick plays. Offense looked good and actually came through in the clutch. So I'll take it. A win's a win.
I would definitely agree. Is there anything else from last week in regular football terms that we really want to get into? Okay. This is gonna be kind of a lighter episode. Next week, look for us to dive in heavy on a certain fantasy subject. A little teaser for you guys for next week who are looking for some deep fantasy opinions coming from both of us. So look forward to that. I'm actually really excited about that. So Jack, why don't we just turn it over to you, and we're gonna get started with our NFL pick'em. And it's been a few weeks, and I know Garlic, if he's out there listening, he's gonna be like, I picked all these teams and I'm blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your your supposed record would be. Your actual record is what we state, and you're gonna live with it. So, Jack, why don't you take it away and tell us what's going on with NFL Pick'em?
So harsh, Garlic. If you're actually listening, I would have said it much nicer than that. The NFL Pick'em, unlike the regular NFL, we do our preseason actually half or partway through the regular season. So instead of a couple of preseason games before the regular season, we go week 1, week 2, and then preseason. So Garlic, congrats on your 2 preseason wins, but that's why they don't count. We'll get a little bit more updated as far as who's got what teams available so far, but rather than wasting time rattling off everybody's 2 picks, I'm just going to give the records as I pick read off your week 6 NFL pick'em. So myself starting out, I am 1-1. I'm going to be picking the Colts over the Texans this week. It's a little bit of a popular pick, as you'll see coming up. Walters is 2-0. He's picked against the Vikings, I believe, both times. So doing well there. This week he's going to be picking the Bengals over Detroit. My buddy Connor is 1-1. He's going to be picking the Bucks tonight over the Eagles. Alex, 1-1 as well, is picking the Cowboys over the Patriots. Foster is 1-1. He is joining me with the Colts over the Texans. Garlic is 1-1, not 4-1. He's going to be going with the Bills over Tennessee. That should be an interesting game if Julio and AJ Brown are both playing. Brandon is 1-1. He's picking the Ravens over the Chargers. Jag is 2-0. He is picking the Jaguars over the Miami. I'm sorry, for this week. And then Luke is 0-2, and he is picking the Colts over the Texans as well. So he's 0-2. I don't know how I feel now having him pick the same team as me, but most of us are 1-1. We got a couple of 2-0s and one 0-2 in there. So hopefully a couple more weeks of this, we'll start seeing some people separate out. And that is it.
So next week, what I plan on having done is I am going to actually have a spreadsheet for this NFL pick'em so that we have like a clear I want to have a visual for it, but then also I think it'll be easier for housekeeping purposes if people ask like which teams they have picked. So I'll just
Mm-hmm.
make up a little fancy spreadsheet, and it'll be great. It'll be awesome. It'll kind of look somewhat similar to what our next topic is. And just to let you know, if you do want to do the NFL pick'em, it is not too late to join in. It's not necessarily at this point who has the most wins by the end of the season, but we'll look at how about winning percentage by the end.
Yeah,
But if
I
you go
like it.
1-for-1 on week like 17 or whatever, like you're out. Like I'm sorry, you're not in. So
Yeah, we're going to have like a mid-season cutoff, like through week 9 or so.
yeah, week 9. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So all right, so let's move on to our next subject here. We're going to be talking about swimming upstream. This is a fan favorite segment. Since Jack has been out, I decided to take the reins a little bit here and
Uh-oh.
pick a few quarterbacks. As you can see, I picked Taylor Heineke in week 4, and then last week I picked Matt Ryan, and both did actually really, really well. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly how good Matt Ryan was going to be against the Jets. And at first I was like, oh crap, I picked the wrong
You
guy.
ruined it.
Yeah, but no, it went, I thought it went pretty well actually. Matt
Yeah,
Ryan
21.5.
Matt Ryan had 21.5 last week. He was the number 11 quarterback on the week, which is awesome. You can see here on our season-long top 12 that currently, if you were to follow all of our streaming quarterback suggestions, you would be the number 9 overall quarterback in our league, according to points. And we are up 2 ranks from last week, which is fantastic. Some of the quarterbacks that you see that are season-long top 12, the herd is thinning out when it comes to free agents on that top 12 list season long. But if you look over right next to it, the week 5 top 12, you will see that there are 5 free agent quarterbacks in this top 12 this past week, which is absolutely insane to me. Jack, what are your feelings going forward this week when starting a a quarterback that is not owned by anybody?
They're not great, Bob. With our league, there's not a whole lot of options that I feel super good with. So I don't know if it's just a couple of people are rostering multiple quarterbacks or if it's just the bye weeks are starting this week or what, but it's kind of thinned out. We do have Matt Ryan on the waiver wire, like you just mentioned. I'm not feeling super good about him this week. Oh, he's on bye. That's why I'm not feeling good about him. I had it in my notes why not to pick him. As far as the other guys, there's literally no quarterbacks on the waivers that are even scoring above 20 points on an average. Which I mean, 20 is decent, but like there's nobody that's really excelling, so to speak. Matt Ryan's off the waivers. He's been one of my picks lately. Sam Darnold had been doing really, really well, but he bombed last week. He had 3 picks, and now he gets to go against the Vikings. So maybe a little bit of a bounce back there. Derek Carr, I don't trust. He had some neck issues last week, I believe, and he's going up against the Broncos, if I remember right, who've got a great defense. So I went with Trevor Lawrence. Not feeling super great about the pick, but he has stepped up the last couple of weeks after he had a couple of down weeks earlier on in the season. So, I mean, he is a rookie. He's going to take a little bit of time. Hopefully he's starting to figure some stuff out. They're playing Miami, who doesn't really seem like as scary of a defense this year. They've got Tua coming back from injury, who I think is going to struggle. So I'm hoping Trevor can kind of put some stuff together. He would have had 2 rushing touchdowns last week too, but 1 got called back. So got the rushing upside you look for in a streamer. And I think probably not going to do anything crazy amazing, but I mean, I'm hoping somewhere between that like 17 to 20 range, good enough to survive if you have to stream them.
Yeah. Who again did you pick? I'm sorry.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. That's right. Okay. I don't know why I had just a stupid brain fart.
No,
Yeah,
you're good.
buys have started. I mean, which teams are all on bye this week?
I know the Falcons are. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I can pull it up for you.
I'm looking at it here. I would like to apologize to our viewers because in our weekly quarterback finds, maybe I was looking at something wrong. I must have the wrong list because when I was putting it together, which I know I did, I have Matt Ryan in there as as points. So I was like, what? I don't get it. So, but
Falcons, Saints, Jets, and 49ers are on by.
yeah, let's see here. Oh, you know what?
So
Shoot. I did not update it actually. I mean, I typed it in, I just never copied and pasted the right
yeah,
information in. So that is my bad. I'll make sure next week when we do our stream that stuff will definitely be
yep.
ready to go there. All right, so we are going to be moving on with our next one. We are going to be talking about our tailgate zone. All right, now this is something different. We used to actually do this at the beginning of our show, but we are going to be doing it in the middle of our show. And what the emphasis of it is it gives people a chance to join our Discord in the waiting room, and if they have a question that they want to ask live on the air, it allows them to do that. So we are going to, we're doing we don't have anybody in our waiting room right now, so we're not going to be dragging anybody in, but we do have a question from one of our league members that we will be answering here as well on our Discord. So let me get into what our pod Q&A question is. Our question this week comes from Jay. Jay asked, league member of the Victoria's Secret, why are the episodes so long? I feel like I would listen to a 20-minute conversation about our league. I might one day even listen to you to talk about NFL or in general for between 20 and 30 minutes, but an hour and a half? Mout. Obviously, take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I know the league feels the same way. All right. So, Jack, do you want to respond to this question first, or should I throw in my 2 cents here real quick?
I'll let you say your 2 cents first.
Okay, so there are a number of things that we can do to make this podcast a little bit more efficient. Number 1 would be time stamping it, and that would require me to do a few more things that's added to my laundry list of things that need to get done for this podcast to go off on a weekly basis. But something like that is for sure coming. So what the timestamps would allow you to do was you can navigate to the place that you want to go to in the podcast to be able to listen to exactly what you want, so you don't have to listen to me drone on about things you don't care about. So that would be one thing. Another thing would be is I'm thinking that what we might want to do, Jack, is we should put out a questionnaire to our league and have a list of all the segments that we normally like to do and see which ones that these that our league members like listening to. And we
Yeah,
can
if
add,
there's ones they
subtract
just
from there.
don't care about.
But this podcast also, what we've been trying to do is trend towards the general fantasy community as well. Obviously, this will always have a Victoria's Secret flavor to it, because without the Victoria's Secret, there is no Victoria's POD. That being said, another option I've always thought of as well is just recording a second episode, which is only league specific items, but that would require more time from you and from me as well. So it's like, we're here, we might as well get it all done. We can talk about it later. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on Jay's question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with Jay on this one. Threw up in my mouth a little bit saying that out loud, but I don't know that I would go necessarily as far as like down to a 20-minute show, because I think I do enjoy, like you said, having a little bit of our specific league and a little bit of like these other games we play, just fantasy overall wise. So I like having that combo of both. And I completely agree. I would much rather put both of them in together than try to do two separate episodes and find the time and have you have to do more tech stuff and me do more note stuff. But I do think we could do a lot better job about being more efficient with it. I think there's a lot of extra space in between, and stuff where I think we can maybe say something in 10 seconds that we don't need to take 60 seconds to say. So I would be in favor of that from my inside sources and my reporters that I have out in the league and outside of the league. Pretty much everybody has made the same comment about they would love it if it's, roughly the sweet spot I've heard is like somewhere in that like 30 to 45-minute range. So we're pushing like hour and a half to 2 hours if we include the beforehand sometimes. And I think that 45 minutes, there's no reason we couldn't do that. Even if we have to shorten up some spots, we can still get them in there. That would be my goal, though. I think we could get a lot more listens that way. It's a lot easier to click play on a half an hour to 40-minute segment versus something that takes, 2 to 3 sittings to get through.
I can say that it's definitely never going to be a half-hour episode. Number one, the amount of content that we have, it would never fit. I mean, essentially, you're just saying lines with no context in it and then moving on. So, the thing that we also
45.
the thing that we need to remember is that my goal here is to have conversations about fantasy football, which means that you are going to have ideas and you're going to have opinions on fantasy in general. And so if you don't want to listen to a podcast that has fantasy opinions tied to it, then I mean, you're just going to have to find something else. I'm sorry. I'm here to talk, and I'm here to share my fantasy opinion with the rest of the world. If people don't want to listen to that, I'm sorry, but that's never going to work in a half-hour show. A 45-minute show would be pretty tough too. I mean, we would have to really figure it out. I mean, I would say that the hour episode is probably the closest you can get to it. But for sure, to be able to do that, our takes are going to have to be shorter, and we're definitely going to have to weed out some of the stuff that our listeners just don't want to listen to. So that's pretty much going to be it in a nutshell. We are always looking to improve, and I consider this podcast like Gumby. I mean, we're always flexible. We're going to have to do what we have to do. But I mean, this is an opinionated show. It's not a report. I'm not just reporting on what happens in our league. I actually have opinions on what's going on in fantasy football. So that is pretty much my question. Jack, if you have anything else to add to that, I will give you the floor for that. Otherwise, we can move on into our next segment. Jack, what do you got?
No, that's fine. We don't need to go back and forth on it again and rehash it. We can chit chat off air and try to come up with some more ideas to maybe just make things more efficient, without cutting out completely everything, but just finding a way to shorten it a little bit. So we'll be in touch with that one.
Right on.
But I appreciate the question, Jay, and the thought.
Yes, thank you. And if you guys want to ask us questions, please join our Discord. Our Discord is the link for our Discord is in the stream notes, and it is going to be in the episode notes as well. If you join the Discord, you are able to ask us questions in one of the many channels that we have here. You're also able to come on live and ask us in person if you want to join us. So please go ahead and do that. Before we head into our Victoria's Secret stuff, I need to answer a burning question coming from Alex. If we are eating or snacking on anything today. And so I just wanted to shout out, I'm just drinking a very basic Coors Light because my fridge is empty of craft beer currently. So Jack, you munching on anything?
I don't have anything right now. We ate dinner a little earlier, so I'm just chilling with some water here. Nothing too exciting.
Right on. So that was a Victorious POD original segment, copied and carbon copied by other podcasts out there, but we are the originals of that. All right, so we're moving on here. I'm just going on.
Yeah.
And on, so
Yep.
right on. Let's talk about what happened in our league this week. Tyler, he changed his name. Actually, he didn't change his name. That was last week. There was a few other name changes. Ben changed his name to Rip Peace, something like that. I don't know exactly what it's all about, but whatever.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I think that's how he said it. I don't understand why it's like that, but it is. So there's that. And I'm not sure if somebody else also did that as well. Stupid ads. Moving on, we have add and drop like it's hot. We are talking about players that were added this today. And looking at it, the big winner today was you, Jack. You spent $42 on Devontae Booker. Holy smokes. I didn't know you had that much fab left.
I mean, it's like half of what Foster spent on Elijah Mitchell. So, I mean, can't be that bad. But I have Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson both on bye this week. Saquon had his nasty ankle injury and is out, and they don't know when he'll be back. So, I mean, Devontae Booker is the direct replacement for him and came in last week with 2 touchdowns and like 17.5 points. So I just was pretty desperate, I think, between them and then having a couple of other injuries. I was looking at basically starting James Conner and Kenneth Gainwell as my 2 running backs. So I just need it's muddy. And I have a matchup that's going to be a pretty ugly one between me and Ben, it looks like. So I have a chance to win and just needed to go get somebody at least until Saquon's back.
For those who are wondering, or for those who have picked up Devontae Booker and are not playing them out of necessity, what is your thoughts going forward? Would you put him in a flex, or would you slot him in as an RB? Or what would your thoughts be on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a flex with upside. I would definitely there's no reason to get him unless you're going to play him because you're going to have to spend up to get him. He's not a guy that's going to go for $2-3 in your league if people are paying attention. So no reason to drop 20-30% of your fab and then sit him on your bench. But I don't love his this week's matchup with the Rams, but depending on how long Saquon's out, I mean, with the unknown right now, people are thinking it's somewhere between like 2 to 5 weeks. So, I mean, if he ends up being on that 4 or 5 week out period, that could be detrimental as your first round pick. So having Booker slot in, he's no Saquon, obviously, but he's clearly going to get the volume. I mean, he had 16 carries last week alone, plus 3 more receptions. So I think he's a flex with upside. I mean, it's just basically whether he scores a touchdown or not. Not that you want to bet on the Giants offense, but I mean, after this week, he's got Carolina, whose defense has looked better than I think it is, and then Kansas City and Las Vegas, which both have had terrible defenses. So he's got some upside here, like just to try to keep your season afloat, so to speak.
All right, moving on. We have Josh. He picked up Jared Cook for $7. Jordan picked up Marlon Mack for $3. Tyler picked up Zach Ertz for $3. Foster picked up Devontae Parker for $3. Ryan added Nick Folk for $2. Foster added the Rams defense for $2. Josh added Hunter Henry for $1. And let's see, who else do we have? Alex added Greg Zuerlein for $0. You also added the Colts defense for $0. Let's see here. Jordan adding Carson Wentz for $0. And Foster added Ramondre Stevenson for $0 as well. Do any of those players move the meter for you? Do you have any opinion on any of those pickups going into this week?
I would have thought the Ramondre Stevenson one was interesting because I know Damian Harris is dealing, I think, with a rib injury, but it looks like Foster already dropped him today for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, other than that, I mean, not a lot of excitement. I think Foster picking up Devontae Parker and me getting Jalen Waddle just with however long Will Fuller's out on IR could be interesting. Otherwise, Zach Ertz, I mean, I know it's kind of like a 1 week rental, but I think it's smart by Tyler because Goddard's on the COVID list / I think out for at least this week. He'll probably be back next week, if not the week after. But Ertz has been getting actually a decent amount of targets, even though he can't do a lot with them. So he's a potential option. Otherwise, not really. Not a lot of excitement for me beyond that.
I would agree as well with the. I'd be interested to see what Zach Ertz can do. Not with Goddard being out for the week. I don't trust him at all. But I mean, if you need a tight end to play, I mean, honestly, I don't know of a better one that you could play. I'm not sure if our league at all has Tyler Conklin available. I'd maybe pick him up. He might be worth a shot playing this weekend. So we will absolutely see. All right. I think that's pretty much going to do it for our ad drop segment. We will be moving on into our matchup recaps here, and then we can get going into our matchup previews here. So let's take a look at week 5 here, and this is what we see. I got to pull up my pictures here real quick.
You want to go first or me?
I got it here. So
Okay.
Ben played Cassie. Ben scored 109 points to Cassie's 89.18. Not a lot here to talk about. Jonathan Taylor had 28.9 points. Alexander Madison had a beastly game at 19.3. Over on Cassie's side, Dak had 20. Marquise Brown had an amazing 24.5. So good to see Ben get a win. I'm sorry, Cassie. Let's move on to our next matchup here. Jack, you want to take that one?
Yeah, who do we got?
We got Jordan versus Foster. Foster
All
just
right.
destroying
Yeah,
Jordan.
Foster murdered Jordan. He was pushing for setting the single week record for our league, but ended up at 167.9 to 93.28. Jordan had a little bit of unluckiness to him with Russell Wilson going out early in the game due to his finger injury, but I mean, it really didn't end up mattering. With Russell Wilson healthy, he probably would have been pushing the 110 range, and usually that's enough to win. But Foster getting Josh Allen with 36.5. I mean, Devontae, Mike Evans, Mark Andrews, all with 23 to 30 points. Really, the only guy that didn't do anything on his team was Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 2.4 after getting injured. And I mean, if he's the only guy not doing something, everybody else in your team just going off. There was no hope for Jordan. So it was a devastating defeat there for him, and that's it.
It's nice to see Jordan's tight end. He was banging on the door to
Yeah, it
get into
is.
fantasy, and then he knocks it down. So that was great. So moving on here, our next matchup we have Josh versus Katie, and this is another insane high scoring matchup. Josh lost 118.16 to Katie's 139.32. Justin Herbert just being a fantasy monster this year, 42.82. And then DK Metcalf, Mike Williams, they both scored over 20 points, which is insane. She also had 3 other players, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, and the Cowboys defense score over 10. Over on Josh's side, he had a few players score over 20 points as well. Najee Harris and Kareem Hunt. So, I mean, just a gut-wrenching loss for Josh. I'm sorry. Better luck next week. Katie, your team is still scary. So, moving on to our next matchup here, we have Ryan versus Alex. Jack, take it away.
One of the only close matchups of the week. Alex won with 113.3 to 105.7. On Ryan's side, I mean, Zeke doing what he does, Darrell Henderson, His receivers let him down a bit, combining for about 8 points between the two of them. But his flex, Antonio Brown, just went off. So that was kind of the one that kept him in contention to win. Kyler Murray having a little bit of an injury scare and then only putting up 13 points, though, against San Francisco was a big letdown for him. On the other side of the ball with Alex, pretty consistent across the board. Diggs surprisingly being the only guy that didn't do a lot for him, 6.9 points, and then Thielen in the flex at 4. But everybody else was in the 14 to 22 range. So, pretty solid. Alex's team is looking really consistent overall. So a nail biter, tough for Ryan, but they should both be bouncing back pretty easily next week.
Okay. Moving on to our next matchup here. We had Tyler versus Jack. Jack, do you want to go over this one? Do you want to talk about it?
Sure, I'll go over mine. Unfortunately, it was not close. I had the low score of the week as the only one that didn't put up like 89 plus. So Tyler went in with 130 over me, thanks in part to Lamar Jackson putting up 41 points on me on Monday night. Hi, Chloe. She wanted to be a part of this. Between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they pretty much added up for my entire score already with 72 points just by themselves. Jamar Chase with 21.9, continuing what he's doing. For me, I had Saquon go out in the first quarter, which destroyed me. But then beyond that, really just everybody else underperformed. Nobody else was hurt or anything like that. They just played poorly. So that's pretty much it on my end.
Oh, alrighty. So we are going to be moving into the final matchup, and Jack, you were spraying fake news all over our YouTube channel when you were saying that one of those matchups was the only close matchup of the week. When
I said one of the close matchups.
Oh, okay, all right. So I had the closest matchup of the week, which is good for the side bet win for the week. That would be my second side bet win of the year. I had 132 points against Jay's 126. Patrick Mahomes didn't really do that well for me, but Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Greg Joseph, those guys were my highest scoring players. But it was good enough for me to win. Jay had Tom Brady had 37, Alvin Kamara and James Robinson both had over 20. So like our players, when you go down them, it seemed like we were really we would take a big swing at each other, and the other person would just match it with just the same score. Although I was just able to pull it out, so which is awesome because I believe that means that I am sitting all alone in first place here, which is fantastic at 4-1, followed by Foster and Jay and Tyler. And holy shit, there's a lot of people actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So that's Foster, Jay, Tyler, Katie, Jordan, and Ben all sitting at 3 and 2, which leaves then Ryan, Josh, Alex at 2 and 3, and then Jack and Cassie both at 1 and 4. So Jack, your season doesn't seem to be going very well.
No, it's not great, especially losing Saquon too. It's brutal. I wish I could say the rest of them have been due to injuries, but my team, I feel like, looks good on paper, and every week I'm projected one of the top ones. But like between Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen, they're both super underperforming, and then running backs haven't panned out. I lost Mostert week 1. My quarterback's super underperforming. Like everybody was projected really, really highly to start the season, and we're all pretty decent values, but they're just not. Like they're not having just like terrible 2-3 point weeks. They're just all like mediocre. So there's really no reason.
Let me ask you this: how many times have you drafted Saquon Barkley?
Twice.
Would you do it again? Would you do it again?
It's tough now because he's hurt, but like right before he got hurt, he's had like 2 pretty monster weeks and looked good again. So maybe if he didn't have a season-ending injury right at the end of the season, I would. But just the fact that like Saquon can do what he can when he's healthy, I'd be tempted. But yeah, I wouldn't ever use a first round on him again. The problem is I expect him to come back in like 2 or 3 weeks and be really good again. But by that time, my season will probably be over. So
yeah, so
I will likely look for more of a safe pick, but I would also prefer to be more in the middle like early to middle of the first in the future versus being at the end, because I kind of took Saquon just for value there, even though he was not on my draft boards anywhere. I didn't plan taking him at all. It was just like, oh, he's like really, really good, and the upside is great, so I should probably take him, right? And I kind of talked myself into a situation of taking a guy that like people felt like I should take rather than like one of my specific guys.
Okay, so no matter where you're at in a 12-person league, you would not draft Saquon first round. Is that right?
Probably not at this point. I mean, I just, with the injury risk twice, both times I've had him, he's basically destroyed my season by week 5 or 6.
So by
Probably not.
let's say he's on the board at pick 20, so you're sitting at the middle of the second
Yes,
round.
yes, I'm taking him there.
Okay, all right. I think that's probably where
I would take him with my early second pick, assuming in my first, like late first, I could grab another running back just to have some depth there. But in this draft, I plan on taking 2 running backs to start, and neither of them were going to be Saquon. And instead, I walked out with Saquon, who was like the biggest risk of a running back there is early on. And then I ended up with Travis Kelce, who's great, but because of that, I didn't get a second running back until round 5, who happened to be Mostert, who I lost right away. So like all of my mock drafts coming into the league draft, I had planned on having a lot stronger running back depth for this kind of reason. And now I'm struggling with it because I didn't get that and went a different way.
I'm sure a lot of people who had Saquon are feeling the same things that you're feeling. So you are not alone. So I think that is going to do it for
that should be it.
Our standings. We have our next here it is. We now are going to go into our previews here, and I just want to take a look at what I got going on here. All right, first we have Katie versus Ryan. Katie is projected 92.9 and Ryan's 103.6. Ryan's team is on the right side, just for those looking, because I know on stream you cannot see the team names. So I apologize about that, because I'm not going to dox anybody in our league. So looking over, Jack, what do you see between Katie and Ryan? I'm looking at these matchups here. I see Ryan's favored by 10 points, essentially. Do you think that it's going to run this way?
I don't expect it to be that big of a blowout. I do like a couple of Ryan's players a lot more. Like, I mean, Zeke versus Aaron Jones, that's pretty much a wash, in my opinion. They're both great running backs. Kyler Murray, if he's healthy, versus Herbert, same thing. They both can run. They both can move the ball in the air. I just really like Darrell Henderson a lot. Like, I've got him in about 4 leagues this year, and so I think the advantage of him over Damian Harris on Katie's side is going to be big. That being said, Metcalf and Williams have both been explosive, so I think she's got the receiver edge. Myles Gaskin is such a wild card because he had like 22 points last week, but he's done nothing before that. So I feel like Ryan's top guys are better than Katie's top guys, and I expect Antonio Brown to have at least like 1 touchdown because Brady loves him tonight. So I expect him to do well, but I think Katie's receivers and Aaron Jones will make it closer than the matchup is. I just still like Ryan.
One thing that I do want to point out real quick is that Katie's second running back, Damian Harris, is projected 0 right now. So I'm assuming that will change the line for sure once the games get started going here. So there is.
Oh, weird. Antonio Brown just scored, just like I said.
Oh,
literally just now. So
really,
but yeah, that'll affect it a lot. So it'll probably be a little more of a high scoring matchup between the two, 100+ each. So
cool. All right,
that's all for that one, though.
We're gonna move on to the next one, which is Cassie versus Foster. Cassie's on the left-hand side. She is projected 98.9 to Foster's 105.4. Jack, when looking at this, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing that Cassie's going to stay on the bottom of the standings with me, unfortunately. Really like Dak Prescott overall, but playing the Patriots, Bill Belichick is a great defensive mind, and I think just has a way of taking away some of your better weapons. So I expect him to make the ball it difficult for the Cowboys to move the ball through the air with Dak. Really like DeAndre Swift, but I believe he's still a little bit hobbled right now. I mean, I expect him to play, but he's been limited all week. having to start Khalil Herbert, the Bears rookie quarterback. I get that Montgomery is out, but I think it's going to be pretty clear that Damian Williams is the guy there. So having to start him is rough. Marquise Hollywood Brown, I get that he's been lighting it up lately and could be the wide receiver one if he didn't drop those passes. I'm just not a believer in him consistency wise. I think he's like early Tyreek Hill, who before he got more consistent was kind of just you were relying on that 170-yard touchdown. So like could easily win the week for Cassie, but I just don't want to rely on that. Dalvin Cook is hobbled and injured. So, like, I think a lot of her top guys, all of these question marks that even if they play, they're not going to be at full strength. So it's not like just looking at these names on paper and being like, oh, she's got Cook and Swift. It's like, yes, but yeah. Meanwhile, Foster, I don't love that he's having to start Fournette as his RB1, but I mean, he's been looking like the guy in Tampa Bay the last few weeks. Same with Daryl Williams in Kansas City with CEH out. I think that's going to be a solid volume play that'll be sneaky. He's got Devontae Adams. I mean, Mike Evans is a threat to score a touchdown tonight, too. Mark Andrews will probably take a little bit of a step back after his insane, 30-something point Monday night performance last week. Yep. But I like all the guys on Foster's team, so I think he's going to edge it out again, barring some 25-point performance from Hollywood for Cass.
The only thing that I don't agree with is your Marquise Brown take. If there's a guy right now that you can go out and get, you're going to have to overpay for him. But I honestly think that he's going to be a league winner if he's on your team, is Marquise Brown. I am an absolute fan. Yeah, he's had the drops, but I honestly think that he is one of the most electric wide receivers out there right now. And I would go after him, definitely.
I don't know that I would go and pay up to get him right now, though, because you're going to literally be paying for like as expensive as you can get. Like he could not have been having a better start to the season. So like unless he continues to exceed that and puts up like the last couple of weeks he's had 15 and 25. Like unless he continues to do that, which is just absurd, and all of a sudden going to be a wide receiver one when he's been mediocre the last couple of years, it's not going to return value, and you're going to have to give up huge pieces to get him. I feel like if you had him on your team, you could do just as well keeping him if you like don't trust your receivers behind him. But I feel like I would rather trade high, sell high kind of thing, and get like a different piece that might be a little bit more consistent if you do have him. That's my take, though.
If you have him, what are you targeting? What would you want to go for?
I mean, just with how the season's gone and all the running back injuries, I would be targeting like a high end running back. You're obviously not going to get like the Cooks, Aaron Jones, Zeke's, and stuff like that. But if you could get like a borderline one or like a mid to high RB2. Like if I could like swing Hollywood Brown for Darrell Henderson, 100% I would do that in a heartbeat. He missed 1 week and he's still averaging like 15 plus points a week, and his workload is consistent. So somebody like that, I think running backs are just a lot hotter commodity right now. It's tough to trade a receiver for a receiver straight up, but if you can get somebody even in the top 12 or so for him, because I think he's wide receiver 5 right now, I'd do that too. If I could swing him for like a Darren Waller, or that's probably about it, because you're not getting Kelsey and you don't want Kittle for him with the injury, I'd do that. I just think there's going to be weeks that having Hollywood in your lineup is going to kill you. Plus, they've got the rookie Rashad Bateman coming off of IR, I believe, this week, who was the number one in camp. He was actually outperforming Hollywood. I'm not saying he's going to step into that, but I think that he will take some looks away. And I just don't think Hollywood's going to be this 150-yard plus a touchdown guy every single week. I think you could get a lot for him right now.
One last question that referring to Marquise Brown and who you pay up for, and then we're going to move on. This is a player we just got done talking about. Would you try and trade Marquise Brown plus maybe another piece for like a Saquon Barkley? Would you look at that? Would you try something like that?
It depends what your record is. If you're like a 4-1 kind of thing where you're like, I'm pretty safe and I can afford to sit with Saquon on my bench for like 2-3 weeks, I would do it. But if you're 2-3 or below, or even 3-2 and don't feel super confident about your team, I don't think you can afford to do it, just because taking that L for 2 to 3 weeks at your running back spot, unless you're one of the few teams alive that has multiple running back options, I just think that would be very, very tough.
Do you think a Marquise straight up for a Saquon would go, or would you have to add a second piece into it?
If somebody offered me that right now, I would be tempted to take it, but again, it's situational. Like I'm 1-4, and I could just use like another flex / wide receiver person where like I said earlier, Saquon's probably not gonna come back until I'm already eliminated. So, but if you were like surviving despite Saquon's injury in like middle of the road or maybe like 5th, 6th seed. I probably wouldn't do it because I think Saquon's still just going to be more consistent and reliable when he is healthy. So you're talking like a 1st-round pick for a reason. I mean, I get the injury history, but when he is healthy, he's a game winner.
Cool. All right, we're going to be moving on. Our next matchup that we have here, we have Jay versus Jordan. Jay is on the left-hand side. Jay is currently projected 96.7 to Jordan's 87.4. Right now, it looks like Jay pretty much has the green check mark on all the positions except for the tight end and the flex. And looking at it, I can see why Jordan's kind of hurting right now because of injury and because of bye weeks. He's starting Carson Wentz, so that's never a great start to your week, if you ask me, even though he did have a fantastic week last week. What are you seeing in this matchup that excites you or concerns you?
Yeah, I think the QB matchup's a huge win for Jay. I mean, obviously, we all would expect Brady to be better than Wentz, but I expect Brady to destroy Philadelphia tonight. He's already got 2 touchdowns in the game, and the second quarter is just starting. Meanwhile, Wentz, like versus the Texans, I think looks like a good matchup, but they're such a bad defense. I expect the Colts to be up early, and I think it's going to be a smash Jonathan Taylor game instead. So I don't think Wentz will have to do a lot. The only thing that I think is going to make this matchup closer than it looks on paper is Jordan does have Christian McCaffrey sitting on his bench right now, who's questionable. He wasn't at practice today, but he still has a chance to play this week. And I mean, he's projected for 19 points right now. So you put him in the lineup, it's almost even at that point. Subbing him out for Marlon Mack, who's got like a 3-point projection right now.
Right.
Beyond that, though, I mean, James Robinson's looked really, really good. DeAndre Hopkins has underperformed for his standards, so I think if he steps up, he'd be great. DJ Moore, I expect to see catch 1 touchdown at least against the Vikings this weekend. Cooks is safe as far as volume-wise, so I really like a lot of Jay's players. Jordan's are a little bit more like boomer bust with Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they can explode or they can, kind of take the back seat on their teams. And then Cooper Kupp, he's another guy that's kind of like the Hollywood Brown to me, where it's just like he's doing great and I've always liked him. I just don't expect it to be like at this level for the entire season. I mean, he's averaging 16.5 points, so I don't expect him to be just scoring touchdowns like crazy, but he's a really, really good like wide receiver 1 to 2 to have. So I think this matchup ends up being a lot closer than it says right now with like a 20-point gap, though. That's my take.
I think this could be the matchup of the week. Looking at it, I really do. So, all right, we are going to move on to Josh versus Tyler. Josh is on the left-hand side, and as of right now, ESPN is saying that Josh is going to lose to Tyler by 1/10 of a point, 103.4 to 103.5. Looking at the matchups here, I look at like both sides of this, and it's just like I have absolutely no idea who I'm going to choose. Looking at it, I want to pick Tyler. I like Jamar Chase over Michael Pittman. I like Derrick Henry over Josh Jacobs and Kareem Hunt together. What are you seeing here? I mean, what is interesting and concerning to you in this matchup?
What's crazy is like both of them have like some of my favorite players to start. I mean, they both got almost no weaknesses or almost no guys down the board that I'm like, about. I mean, the only ones that I run into are like Hunter Henry as a tight end for Josh.
Yep.
And Josh Jacobs, I just still think is only volume dependent and overrated. You're hoping he scores a touchdown. But beyond that, I mean, Josh having Rodgers, Najee, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, and Michael Pittman, all of them I love. A couple of them have some tougher matchups this week with Kareem going against the Cardinals defense and Rodgers against the Bears. But overall, I really love all of them fantasy-wise. And then Tyler literally up and down the board. Like Lamar is a beast. I give him the edge with that. Derrick Henry is getting literally on pace to shatter the touches record, so his volume's insane. Joe Mixon's one of my guys, I think, coming back from a little bit of like a 50%. He only got like some of the carries last week. A.J. Brown underperforming, but I think has a chance to keep up with the Bills this week. He should get some volume. Jamar Chase has looked great. The only one that's really holding him back is the rookie Javonte Williams, who the only reason is because he's splitting time with Melvin Gordon. So I feel like the second that he starts getting the majority of the carries, Tyler's entire lineup just looks insane. So I will go with Tyler just because of Lamar's insane Monday night performance last week and Derrick Henry's record pace, but Either one could easily pull this one out.
Javonte Williams might be seeing tougher times because a third running back I have heard is going to be folding into the mix. Ex-Viking Mike Boone, I think, is going to be.
Please.
I think. Well, this is
Please.
from my sources. This is from my sources. That he, So I mean, is Mike Boone really going to affect how well Javonte Williams and who's the other guy?
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon. I don't think so. But
No.
he will be on the field and he will get a couple of touches, which any rep that you take away from these players just makes that situation worse. So you don't want to see that, but I mean, we'll see how much it affects him. I hope it's not too much. So but that is something that you do have to remember when playing one of those two players, that if they have the option to, they will run 3 running backs into in their offense. So let's go.
All right.
I'm gonna do my matchup and then we'll finish up with your matchup. So moving on over to mine.
I'll just let you cover your whole one if you want to chit chat about that, and then I'll talk about mine.
I am playing Alex this week. Alex in our other leagues. So I've faced him twice already. I faced him once in Champions, and I also faced him in our dynasty, and I've lost to him twice, and I am not going to stand for this anymore. I plan to absolutely whoop Alex's ass this weekend. Alex is on the left-hand side. He is projected 96.5 to my 105.8. There's a reason why I've only made one roster move this year, and that was to drop a player and to pick up a quarterback for my bye week. That is because my team is amazing. And I'm not just saying that to say that. I honestly think it is one of the best and deepest teams that I have ever drafted, and is the best in the league right now. I look at it, and any of the players that I see on the waiver wire, I look at it and do I want to drop any of the players that I have on my bench? I don't. Because any of the players, if any of my players go down, I have no problem inserting a bench player. I know that they're not going to get the same production that I have in some of my top tier guys, but I mean, for 1 week, no problem. So, but yeah. So, like Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, I have to play Devonta Smith this weekend because of buys. I'm totally cool with that. Vikings defense, I think they're going to be awesome against Carolina. Over on Alex's side, looking at it, one player that's really surprised me, and I wasn't looking for this to happen, Zach Moss this year for Buffalo has been fantastic. When everybody wrote off all Buffalo running backs this year, Zach Moss has really been a diamond in the rough. Would you be targeting him at all?
I personally wouldn't. I mean, like if you can get him in a package or a deal, great. But for me, he's been a lot of touchdowns. He's got 4 touchdowns in 4 weeks. And I mean, the most rushing yardage he's had in any week was 61. So it's not like he's getting a ton of volume. I'd be a little bit skeptical just because I know they like to use Singletary a little bit too. Plus Josh Allen just throws the ball so much. So if you can get him for, something not unreasonable, or if you need some running back depth, by all means, but I wouldn't pay up to get him necessarily.
Okay. Is there anything that you notice in this matchup that excites you or concerns you? You have the floor, and then we'll move on to your matchup.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Hurts is going to do tonight against the Buccaneers. I mean, their defense is pretty solid. They get a lot of pressure, but he runs the ball so much. I watched the Eagles game last week when they were playing Carolina, and he looked like doo-doo for most of the game. But halfway through the fourth quarter, he just started running the ball a ton, and because he got a couple of rushing touchdowns, all of a sudden he ends with 22 points. So really terrible performance that gets saved by a rushing quarterback, which happens a lot. So we'll see what he can do against the Buccaneers. But yeah, I love your running back so much. Eckler was actually a guy I was targeting. I was planning on taking him with my 202 picks. That would have been the 14th pick until Travis Kelce fell there. So he was my setup pick all along of taking a running back first and then taking him second to just load up with it. And obviously hindsight 2020, but I've always loved him, traded for him in Dynasty last year. think he's great. And then, yeah, I mean, receivers, I'm so on for you, but I think like Deontay Johnson especially is my favorite, and I think you have a pretty solid one across the board. Um, I don't know that I love some of Alex's matchups this week, so I expect you to win, but I like his team overall. It's just the matchups that are tough. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, cool. And moving on to the last matchup here, we have Scordarrelle Patterson, that's Jack Vickers. I'm sorry, just Jack. Versus Ben Rip in Peace with the redundant name.
Rest
Jack,
in peace, in peace.
yes, you, Jack, are projected 90.9 to Ben's 87.7. I'll just let you talk. Go for it.
You just what?
I'll just
Oh,
let you
okay.
talk,
Me
man.
talk.
Go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be a gross one. If there's an opposite of matchup of the week, this is it. I just had kind of assumed I was already out and thrown it in the towel, and then I looked at the matchups and was like, oh my god, somebody else who looks terrible like me, so I might actually have a chance. I don't really know why. I mean, he's got Calvin Ridley on bye, and then Montgomery is hurt, and Kittle is hurt, so it's not like we're really in the same ballpark. I'm just getting very lucky with playing him at the right time, I think. So we'll see if Ben's backups and bench players can beat me at starting full strength. I do like Stafford against the Giants way more than I like Tannehill this week. Tannehill was like one of my sleeper guys who I figured was like that kind of QB 12 to 14 range that would perform, but he's looked rough and he's had Julio for like one game and AJ Brown's missed a couple too. So not what you want when that's why you drafted him was for the weapons. Meanwhile, running backs wise, I mean, I like his a lot more with Jonathan Taylor. Like I said, I expect him to put up like 15 to 20 points this week. I think it's going to be a monster game for him. Chase Edmonds versus Cleveland, not as much, but I have to start James Conner and Devontae Booker on the other side for running back, so I'm not in love. Receivers wise, I actually kind of like Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper more than Sutton and Van Jefferson. Just Van Jefferson is the third option on his team, so it's going to be tough, but my guys have both underperformed, so who knows? Kelsey is supposed to play, but he had a stinger last week that they had him limited in practice for. So hoping he plays to try to keep up with Washington and get some looks there. I had to start Kenny Gainwell in my flex tonight, like I said, because of a couple of buys and some injuries. So I'm struggling too. He's actually gotten a lot of looks in the receiving game, which is kind of what I was banking on. He's actually split time with Miles Sanders the last couple of weeks, and then he's got a lot more looks in the receiving game. So I was kind of just playing him as a get me 6 or 7 points, just something to survive with. But I really didn't have another upside guy. I mean, with not knowing how some of these guys were going to play, injured or not, I kind of just didn't have a choice. So hence why I really had to spend up to go get Devontae Booker and make sure I had some running back options. If I pull this one out, I will be amazed, but I probably don't have a better chance than this week to sweep Bio in. Otherwise, I think if I lose, I pretty much am out of it guaranteed. So it'll be irrelevant what I do from here. I'll just be playing not to take the last place punishment and just kind of more for integrity because I hate when people just stop checking their lineups and give up. So I'll set it just for the sake of maybe playing the upset versus other people.
Cool.
And that's it.
I will have to say I believe when I look at both of these teams, I just kind of want to vomit. To be blunt, I'm sorry. I will pick your team though. I feel like your team has the more upside to it. I'm not a fan of Ryan Tannehill, but I feel like if he is able to get a few touchdowns, he will be able to do more than enough for you to be able to overtake Ben in this matchup. But I really feel like Ryan Tannehill is going to be the deciding factor in your matchup. So that's really the only point of interest that I have um, in the matchup. We'll see how these backup running backs do this week on both sides of the ball. So. But yeah, I'm gonna pick you, and I really think that it's gonna come down to whether or not Ryan Tannehill is able to do anything against one of the best defenses in the league. One of the reasons why I think Ryan Tannehill could have a huge game just because of how on fire the Buffalo Bills offense has been. So I would have to assume right away that the Tennessee Titans are going to be a negative game script, and if they get their wide receivers back, I feel like Ryan Tannehill is just going to be chucking that pigskin all day. So there's some opportunity upside for you this week, but it's going to be a tough matchup, really tough matchup for Ryan Tannehill. So I think that
All right.
is pretty much going to do it for our matchups. Let's move back over here. I think that's pretty much going to be it. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
really too much else going on. Did you win in Dynasty or in Superflex this weekend?
In Superflex, I think I did 1-1. I lost the matchup, but I won above the median. I think I lost despite putting up like 160 or something like that. So, yeah, 169 and I lost. So, I mean, luckily we do that like 2 points possibility, so I had a chance. But should be okay coming up this week. I'm 6-4 and one of the higher points in the league, so not too worried. I'm feeling good.
Nice. I am trying to look and see how my
You
matchup went.
split also, it looks like.
Oh yeah, that's right. I lost to, I can't remember who I played, but I split. That's right. Let's see. I think I won as well in Dynasty, which is nice because I'm trying to work my way back to the top of the leaderboard. I'm not even in the playoffs right now, but I think I'm sitting at like
You're
second highest in points for in the league.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'm facing Josh this week in Dynasty, and he's
you'll be fine then.
he's in tank mode, so it'll be good. All right. Is there anything that you're looking forward to for this weekend's matchups? Any games that we got another London game? How you feeling about that?
Yeah, couldn't care. They usually disappoint just with like the travel time and everything, and they never make the good teams go and play. It's always like this week it's the Dolphins and the Jaguars. Before it was the Jets. Like you never see prime time matchups there. So I will not be waking up early at Sunday morning at 8:30 to watch that, but I am going to go watch the Thursday night football game. I want to go watch some Brady magic here, and then beyond that, I mean, I'll watch the Vikes, of course. Cowboys and Patriots, I think, could be interesting, and then Bills and Titans Monday night. I'm pumped for. Chargers and Ravens. That's the only other one I'm really excited to see.
Cool. Yeah,
So yeah.
I'm happy that we get to watch football literally all day on Sunday because of the England game, the London game, even if it is trash. But football all day is football all day, so you can't go wrong with that. So I wish everybody to have a great weekend in fantasy. I hope some of you win and some of you lose. I'm not going to name who, but there's that. Yeah, so let's have a great weekend, and we're gonna sign off, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out our stream and our podcast. I know I'm a few eps behind on the podcast app. We will get those out this weekend, and we'll be up to date on everything. Next week, check out our big show. We're gonna have some in-depth fantasy conversation. We're really excited about all of that. Just again, to reminder, if you want to check out our Discord, the link is in the video description and the episode description. To donate, you can go to www.streamlabs.com/thevictoriouspod. Make sure you check out all of our socials. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. See you, Jack.
See ya.
And music ready, set, go.